If you saw my last video where I was showing you how to vibe code the initial 0 to 1 for a Streamlit app, I've got the next step for you right here. We're going to take an application we've already made. It's very, very simple, one pager, but we're going to now take it to the next level. We're going to add some additional pages. We're going to add some additional graphs. We're going to squeeze out more of what we can from this data. And we're going to do it all just with Cursor's agent tool. So just with AI, we're going to keep vibe coding only. We're going to see how far we can go before we might have to do some code or edit it. So let's see what we can do here. All right, so I am in Cursor. Click on the link and go back and see the original video if you need to. I'll put that link up here one more time, or I'll have it down in the description where you can look at it there. I'm going to assume that you've got something going, and you might have something going that looks like this if you did similar to what I did. Here, though, we have an application that I created that is just a simple one-page dashboard. And we've got a couple different graphs that are in a tab set, and there is a real-time refreshing of the page and of the graphs when we remove certain filters. So we've got states filters here, we've got show types. A reminder of exactly what this data is this data is meant to represent streaming information from this made-up streaming platform. And we've got viewing patterns and then the show patterns for viewers. The data is meant to show a user and what they saw, how much they watched of a show, and then what types of shows they have. So different types of information. But it's pretty standard in terms of what you might see from a dashboard standpoint. Now, what I really like about Streamlit is the way it is a Python API sitting on top of React, basically. And so while this isn't a pure state-based application, it's got a lot of reactive elements to it. Case in point, the ability just to remove the state filter and you get an updated graph. If I removed everything and I had nothing, then I have nothing in the graph. I can then add states as they go, and you see the graph naturally just increasing, and with more data to come in, we usually get a more spikier graph that way. Show performance as well. One of the cool things that Streamlit has already set up for you is it has a lot of UI elements pre-built in, and you're going to just be calling them via Streamlit's API, which is a very, very well-documented API. And that's a big reason why I think it just works wonderfully with agentic, software engineering, where you're leveraging agents in something like Cursor, and you're having those agents go and just build the code for you, go and build these pages for you. You're not really having the agent build pure React. You can build your custom components in React with Streamlit, but if you are an analyst or even if you're a PM, a product manager who wants to look at data, this is a pretty incredible tool that you can leverage, and you don't necessarily have to code, like I said. So let's kind of look at that and see what that feels like. I'm hoping by the end of this second part, you're going to feel really the power of the Streamlit platform, which I do evangelize, I'm a really big fan of, but two, really what you can get away with just vibe coding, and maybe we don't need to be in the weeds all the time. So let's make some more. Let's improve our page here. I've got a new chat in Cursor on the right, and we've got the app.py here on the left. And app.py is what we're calling to launch the application. Just a quick reminder, we've got requirements text. That's going to tell our application what packages we want to use. And then we've just got this JSON file that has all of the data itself in it. I'm just leveraging JSON. It parses relatively fast. There's not a lot of data here, and it's really, really nice for just showing POCs. If we were to take this up to the next level, you could connect a data warehouse to Streamlit. You could connect cloud storage to Streamlit. You could connect Postgres or MySQL to Streamlit if you wanted to. But this data is just really, really easy. In fact, I think what I'll probably do now that we're in the part 2 is I'll probably just put this onto GitHub so everyone can see it. At this point, so when I'm vibe coding, when I'm thinking about what I want to build next, it makes you have to think very incrementally about how do I want to build the application? And you're not looking at a lot of code, you're looking at the UI itself, and I'm taking a lot of notes. And so I have taken some notes here, but one of the things I really, really like about Streamlit is it has the ability to have a slide in, slide out menu. And it's just, it's really convenient. You can have multiple pages in that slide out, slide in menu too, and probably even to the time that this airs, this video, Streamlit's probably already made some API updates to it that I believe that there's like a top level menu now available. So Streamlit's getting updated a lot, but we're going to sit in the comfort zone that I have personally. So one thing I'd like to do is I'd like to add a sliding menu that comes on the left side here. Going back to the code, I don't think I need to do too much except explain to Cursor what I'm trying to do here. So I'm in AppPy. I have AppPy added here as the context. That's what I want. I want it to reference AppPy. And I think I'm going to tell it, add a left side menu to this app. What do I want to put in the left side menu? Sometimes I like to just break things first and we go from there. I'm going to go ahead and do that. But let's just say I want to add a new page to this menu called, I think I want to break it down into domains is what I want to do. The current app is kind of everything to everyone, which is nice. But looking at my data here, what do I have in it? I've got time zone state, the show duration, the show ID, the show name, the show type, the show genre. I've got a lot about shows. At the top here, I'm really kind of at a high level aggregation. One of the things I like to do with my data products is I like to build domains within them because usually there are certain areas of the business who have a domain specific need. I'm looking at the data and I'm seeing, hey, we've got a lot of show information here. Why don't we make a page just about shows? So we're going to call it we're just going to call it shows for now. Thinking about it here, and this is what's kind of interesting when you're prompting your way through things is, I'm thinking a lot about what I'm saying, where I would be looking at my SQL or looking at my Python, and I'd be thinking, being like, okay, what is this? I'm not necessarily gonna run it because one of the nice things too is when you're prompting, you get an idea of what you're gonna get back from your prompt a lot of the time. So I'm trying to think to myself, does it need anything else? What does it need? Yeah, I think for now, this page we'll say just be blank, and we'll see what that looks like. Blank, except we'll show an H1 title. We'll say that. So we'll just try to make a menu that's gonna slide in, slide out, and it'll have another page with just an H1 title that I think is gonna be called shows. So I don't think we have to go too intense with this prompt. I want to make sure app is added to the context here. So I've got the streaming data in the context in Cursor and the app in Cursor. I'm going to run this. We're going to see what it looks like. Okay, so it says it's done something. Let's see what it read. It did. I'll help you out a left sidebar menu to Streamlit and add a shows page. What I'm seeing here is an update to app.py, and that's where they added the sidebar. Let's go to the code itself on the left side. That's nice to do. I'll collapse this. Let's see here. Collapse this guy. Oh, whoops. Let me see here. Oh, maybe. Yeah, that's it. Duh. That's how you collapse it. Let's look at the code itself, and this is where you can see what it's updated. I haven't accepted this yet, and I like to leave it up to kind of work through what it's done, to be honest. So it removed the title here on this main page. I don't know if that's what I want. It added the navigation to it, and I believe that might be right. So it's doing a sidebar radio button, and then it's saying that I see. So it's making a sidebar radio, and it's making the sidebar say go to, and then it's got this radio button saying dashboard or shows. So I think right off the bat, this is probably not quite what I was thinking in my head. We'll find out. And they're saying if it's dashboard, if you click dashboard, then yeah, see here, it's making a dashboard page. And I think else go to the shows page. This is not the way that I want the application to be built. Let's go over to the app. It normally will, yes, it'll recreate it here. So it has made what I asked specifically, which makes sense. When you think about the prompt that I gave it, I actually don't want it to work the way it's offered, but let me show you what it did. So it added this nav bar, and in Streamlit you have a little caret here. I always forget. Oh, a chevron. That's right, a chevron that brings this in and out. So you can look at it, and you'll notice it's defaulted to dashboard, and the dashboard page is up. If I click on shows, it now goes to the shows page, and that is all set up, and we could add some more. I don't want to do the radio button though. I would like them to just be links. And so what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to accept this right now. I'm not going to say, hey, this is good enough for me, because this is where vibe coding can go wrong. When you accept things that aren't really what you want, it does become increasingly difficult to go back and kind of tease things out. And for the most part, that's because you may not be a software engineer, and that's one of the reasons you're vibe coding your application. But the other thing is that, you know, the agents don't totally care about what it is that they're building if it meets your criteria, if you're accepting it. And so you really do have to ask yourself, do I accept this or not? If you don't, that's actually okay. Because in Cursor, we can go back to the original prompt, okay? And we can say, all right, there's some more context here I'd like to give this prompt, and I'd like to get a better outcome. And I'll show you exactly how that looks and how this side code gets changed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some different stuff to it. And actually from here, I'm going to go to Streamlit's API. It has a great reference API, and STPage is actually here and clicked. STPage, I think, is what I want to use. So STPage, it lets you set up links for pages. And I'm going to grab this actual URL. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say I'd like to use the STPage design for the menu and the pages of the app. See here, and I'm going to put the URL in. I find this is very helpful because from what I understand, the agent will go to that URL, can read it and scan it and come back, and will probably rethink this. So the menu should just have text links to each page. That's what I think we really want to do here, okay? I'm going to press enter. So in Cursor, what it gives you is it says, hey, if you submit this, it's going to revert all the changes and start over. And that's convenient, to be honest. So if you kind of get into the weeds and it's not really turning out the way you want to, you can go back up to different parts of your message thread, of your chat thread, and you can revert there. It's not a great idea to have really long chat threads, because the agent and the LM can get confused with all the things you've done. I like to keep chat threads within domains of ideas. And so for here, we're going to work on the menu here. So I'm going to continue and revert back. And so you'll see all of the original changes that had been made, that's now reverted, and it's thinking through again a new plan. What am I going to do here? So it's going to restructure the app to use Streamlit's navigation system, which is great. It's thinking some more. Okay, so it finished thinking. It did some work. We're going to look at what it did. Here, I do see a dashboard page function, it looks like we've got now. And below is a shows function, is what it looks like we have now. And then it is using ST navigation, and in that ST page, and this is the correct pattern. This is what I want. It's all in one script still. If we wanted to be better with our software engineering practice, we'd probably start to pull these kind of apart and put them into separate files. But for now, we're going to stay in one page because, if we're doing everything agentically, it might not even matter. I'm just being honest. But it did make ST navigation. It did create the page, and I think it's done what I wanted it to do. Let me go back to the application. I now have a dashboard and then a link just shows. This doesn't need to be here, but still, that's nice. Now, when I click on it, now what we have is we've got a menu, right, that I'm looking for. And this is a lot more of what I'm shooting for. But that was really easy. Now, granted, here's what I will say. I understand Streamlit's API. I spend time with API docs. I know what I'm looking for and I know what the options are. I've built things by hand a lot with Streamlit. And in the end, it's probably a great idea to go and build things with Streamlit on your own. Just like it's probably still a great idea to go learn Python, to go write code that manipulates data, to go write SQL. You want to understand what the functions can do. You want to understand the breadth of options you have to work with, right? But this is the vibe coding can save a lot of time. It just can, especially if you already know what you're looking for. If you already have like top level filters, for example, these filters here or these types of widgets, you can just have it reference this and say, hey, I want it to be like this. In fact, I think that's what we're going to do right now. Okay. So we have a shows page and we have a dashboards page. I'm going to accept these. I think we're good. I'm then going to create a new chat. I want to build out the shows page more. I'm trying to understand. Oh, here is the pound sign. I don't know why that pound sign's there. So I'm not coding, but I'm gonna delete that pound sign. And then I'm gonna save that. And it's just automatically showing up on the Streamlit page locally. So let's build the Streamlit page now, okay? So what do I want in the shows? What I would like is, I wanna show you how it's really convenient to use templates and to build more pages. So, for the shows page, use the same filter and graph framework that you did for the dashboards page, okay, for the dashboards page, but have the filters and the two graphs be specific to show data only. I think this is going to be pretty straightforward, to be honest, because looking at the data, again, in the JSON I have, everything says show in it. I think it's going to know what to do. And so it might pick more filters. I don't totally know yet, but let's have a peek. This is a really high level naive command too. I don't necessarily know what I want it to do filter wise. I kind of want to see just what it'll decide on. I'm going to move to 3.5 Sonnet 2, so it's not a thinking model. Maybe we'll get a little more speed on it because the 4 point Sonnet thinking has been taking its time. So let's see what 3.5 does. Okay, I'll be honest, it didn't really go much faster. So we'll see. I think it did a fine job from what I can tell. But it made the shows page and it added, we had created the shows page before and it's in the form of a function now, right? And it's being called down in the EST navigation object here. You can see that with an icon, but it put a bunch of stuff in there. So one of the things that I think any software engineer would look at this and start to say, you're starting to repeat yourself. So here you've got column 1, column 2, you've got filters, and then you have like this tab set, for example. So we are like repeating ourselves here from a tab set perspective, but this tab command and this tab set, these are already component functions that are being put into it. So again, I would probably end up decoupling this shows page function into its own file, and same thing with this dashboards page function, and then put it into its own file and just calling those in. But for the sake of this all being one script and one file, it's going to be in the form of this function, and then it's going to call the function in the same page. This is probably, again, going to look cringy and just downright wrong to an engineer. Their heads might explode. But the crazy thing about the agentic software is that it might not matter. It might not matter. Can you read it? Do you know what it's doing? Do you know how to assess it? Or if there's bugs? That's kind of what really matters. Let's go over to the app. And okay, so it put in the filters here. So it went with the show names. I'm going to clear all of them and we'll just pick one, friends here. The show types, and then the date range. So they didn't have the date range exactly here, like I kind of thought it would. It didn't think to itself, maybe I should put the date range first like I did with streaming analytics, but it did a good job of selecting the filters. However, we have this error right here, and show engagement probably showing the same thing. So let's see here. It's saying the column is not found, user age range. The column is not found. So user age range, let's go to the data. We don't have age. And what I'm smelling here is potentially a hallucination. Up here at the initial prompt, you'll notice I've got the app.py code here, but I did not bring in the data as context. I didn't bring in the streaming2 data. And if you don't bring in the streaming2 data, if it's a new chat and you're talking about it, the agent doesn't really fully understand all the chats. It doesn't bring all the chats together. It looks at the code base and it sees what's happening, and it has certain levels of memory within its chat. But if you're making a new chat to work on a new part of the application, it might be like, well, actually, I don't know anything about if you have data or not. Or it might not think to itself, I should check to see if there's a JSON object that's data. We've got a hallucination here. I'm thinking to myself, I want to revert and try this again, adding the streaming data and to see what happens. I'm going to add the context. I'm going to continue and revert, and I'm going to let it run again, and I'm going to see what happens. Okay, so it came back, and now it's working on some new ideas after I gave it the context for the data. Let's see what it went with. I'm going to go to the application again. Okay, so this time we've got some good news. Now we don't have an error because it wasn't looking for a column that didn't exist. It referenced the JSON file and looked at the data first, and then it made some decisions. So yay. It went with genres, it went with ratings, show types, and then it made a show performance and a genre analysis, which is interesting. So yeah, I think it says the value. So there's a completion rate, which is nice. Over here, the variables, there's the total views. So the total views that this particular show got, and then the average completion rate, which is in the data. Let's see here. I think in the data, we've got the duration of the show, then we've got the duration of the seconds watched, and then you divide those and you can get the completion rate. So it's actually decided on an actual KPI here. It built a metric and it's got that baked into the graph. This is the kind of stuff that's, I don't know, I think we are like laughing at the vibe coding part, but to me, this is pretty real. I'm just being honest. Now, obviously there's some other things we kind of want to involve here. So a semantic layer, probably, if we actually have specific KPIs with specific logic that we want, well, it could just be a function, and we could say, hey, look at the function that has the logic for this KPI and use that in this page. That's there. But you should be able to see, the gears should be turning right now of exactly, well, how I can get this going. I could use this with my work. So it's done that. It's also done a genre analysis. And I think in general, that's just going to be the number total of views. And so you can kind of see like during this. Now, this is all time. I think we want a date range in here as well. I think that would make the most sense. It shows these three. If I asked it to add date range, what would that look like? Would that break its brain? Let's try that. So I'm going to accept all these. And I'm going to stay in this chat, because I wanted to reference what it just did. I'm going to ask, can we add a date range filter as well to the shows page? Can that filter be the first filter? Yeah, can it be the first filter? We'll see what that looks like. Okay, let's make some following changes. Added a new date range filter to as the first filter, changed the layout from 3 columns to 4 columns to accommodate all. So it's going to go with 4, and updated the filtering logic to include the date range filter. I will say it is not non-trivial to put date range filtering on your data. So the way it currently has the page set up is it's really just looking at the data and aggregating it. But when you want to do these date ranges, well, there's conversion, then you have to have logic that looks at the dates, and you have to filter the data within that. It's not non-trivial. So in fact, it's kind of annoying. I'll be honest. When I was building Streamlit apps on my own, my team would create functions that worked just with date range filters because we wanted it to work a certain way specifically. And so I think it unloads a lot of the work over to the agent and says, just do this for me. It's a headache. Let's go to the page. Yeah, so the date range is here. I think it appropriately put all 4 in. I'm going full screen here. If we were to make it smaller, and if we actually remove the menu and we slide it in, it looks nice. It looks nice. And now that's here. So we'll go to that date range. So we know what date ranges is. It's 11th to the 24th. Still got the genres and the ratings in it and the show types. And I mean, I don't know, that's pretty awesome. So now we have this page that's working with cohort streaming data, and there's dashboard, which is not a great page name. We're probably going to change that. But then now we've added a new page that's got domain specific stuff. So if you're an analytics engineer, or you're a data analyst, or you're a PM, or you're just a stakeholder, you could come to the Streamlit page, and maybe this is an overview. Maybe we could say this is the overview page, right? In fact, why don't we just make a slight little touch? In fact, I take that back. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do it. Everything will be vibed except for that one fix that we made on removing that pound sign. But I will just say, change dashboard page title to, what is it? Overview. Let's see what it does. I think it's going to be okay. Sometimes these really, really short prompts, honestly, I don't know, they can do some wacky stuff. Usually the best case scenario is you are going to put a lot of information in what you need. You want to be real detailed about it. But the API is really good for Streamlit. And so, I don't know, I think it usually knows what to do with a little bit of correction. Okay. Okay. Let's see what it did. Okay. I think it just had to, no, it made an overview page. And okay, good. No, okay, I think it made an overview page and removed dashboard. Let's see if that's what happened. Great. Overview. Stream. And the reason, honestly, like, it actually is good to use an agent even to change names, because like that name is referenced in a bunch of different places. And so if you just change the name in one part of that application page, it's probably going to break somewhere else. And this is that headache we probably shouldn't be worrying about it anymore. This is why I like using the agents. So we've got an overview of the data. You can show viewing patterns and show performance and states and show types. And then we've got a shows page now. So that's a genre specific one. Okay, let's move a little bit faster, okay? So I want to do one around customers now. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to make a new chat though. I'm going to add the data to it. All right. I want a new page called customers. I want the filters to be in the same way as the shows page, but specific to customer data. Same with the graphs and in a tab set. Add this page to the left side menu as well. Cool. So see, at this point, I just want to make a new page called customers, reference this page, but make it based on the customer data. It kind of knows what to do. I'm just going to hit enter. We're not even going to talk too much right now. We're going to see what it does. Okay, it wrote a lot of stuff, but it looks like it made a new customer page. We've got a customer page function here in the same pattern that they were doing with the previous pages, and it's being called down at the bottom in the ST navigation section, right? that is good. I think it's gonna work out. Looks like it's the same way, the same layout, which is what we're shooting for. Did they do a date range filter? They did a date range filter and it was first. Let's go over to the app and notice it's even choosing sort of a relevant icon, which is pretty cool. Let's kick it. All right, so kind of similar for customers. You got your date range, you got your states, time zones, and show preferences. Probably the things that it uses the most. So it probably had to do some aggregation to find, I don't know really what it means by show preferences. I guess it's just the type of show is what it's saying. So anyways, it's grouping by those things. And if we take that filter out, it's gone with engagement analysis. And so just the number of users and the average hours per user. So a lot of users, but maybe not a lot per user. That's an interesting choice. We'll go a couple days. So yeah, I mean, it's an interesting choice. These are plotly graphs. Again, if you click this variable off, you will you'll remove that from the graph. So you can kind of actually find out what this looks like. Geographic analysis. Yeah, so it's kind of telling us what the states look like. This is time zone. So it's telling us, yeah, time zone stuff. So here's how the time zones look per state. That's kind of interesting. So there's a state and then there's a time zone. So this is a wacky choice because they're grouping by state and then they're aggregating by time zone. But like Texas only has, one time zone. So this is an interesting choice. One that I think is kind of useless and not useful. So let's just be real. I don't really like this. I think the viewing behavior is interesting. But I don't really like that. So I'll be honest, I don't really like the choices it made for the graphs here. That's going to give us an opportunity. Let's go and accept all that. But we're going to update those graphs. Okay. For the customers page, I'd like to replace the current graphs with two different ones. And here's where we're going to get detailed. So let's think about this data real quick. This is going to be customer based. Right. Let's go. I think that duration rate is nice. I think the state makes a lot of sense. So duration rate, let's see here. What did they actually reference? They called it average hours per user. Yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. So it'd be like, I think it was, show completion. I think that's what they referenced in shows. Yeah, completion rate. Okay, so let's go average completion rate because it's already been referenced before. So average completion rate. What should the second one be? Let's go total watch time per user. And the user, by user ID. I don't know, we might try it. Let's see what it does. So I'm thinking it might just be this big bar chart with this long tail that's gonna aggregate all the time by the user ID. And that's kind of interesting. That might be useful. I'm gonna see what it does. All right, we've got some updates. First tab, state completion rate. Second tab, user watch time. Let's see what it did. All right, state completion rate. Yeah, I think this average completion rate by state. Average completion rate. Okay, yeah, I think that's nice. That's nice. So yeah, here's Michigan and its average completion rate is 63. So we kind of see within this made up synthesized data, Michigan's got the best average completion rate. So this is a much more useful data. We could get into genre if we wanted to here. Maybe not genre, but like there's time zones. Kind of feel like time zone might not be a very useful filter since we have states. Like, what do we need time zone for? But maybe it is. Maybe it is. Well, no, it's not, because you have to select something time zone wise. Let's say these are all selected, and let's say we just want Pacific time. Okay. Yeah, that's, well, no, that's not. Yeah, this is not working really well. The states and the time zones aren't working really well. Because I have just Los Angeles, but Illinois is not in Los Angeles. Like, this is not working correctly. Let's fix that. Let's accept these graphs. I think this makes sense. User watch time. Oh, actually, yeah. What did it do here? Okay, so it went with a scatter plot. Total hours watched by the user ID. Ooh. This wasn't great. The user ID, it's like, I mean, the user ID, I guess it makes some sense that the user ID is kind of up to the top, but yeah, I don't like that. That doesn't make a lot of sense. We're going to fix a couple things. So update the average completion rate by state graph on the customers page to be a bar chart. Let's do that first. We'll see what it does. It's already using bar chart. No, I don't think so, but I'll enhance to make it more visually appealing. Oh, shoot. Actually, I'm going to stop that because I was wrong. I meant the user watch time. So I'm going to revert. So I made a mistake. Let's do that. The user watch time. Right. User watch time graph. I'm going to revert there. One of the nice things about the revert happening, oop, I made a mistake. Let's get back because I screwed it up. All right, went from scatter to bar. There's our bar. The ID still is kind of like it's a continuous scale. I don't really want that. All right, can you make the bar chart, buckets? Let's see here. I'm gonna do this again because it needs some more context. The user ID is an integer and it's making not really the graph that you want. Let's make it a string, which I think would end up making it more like the bins will be distinct and it'll be, I think, the proper type of bar chart at that point because it's creating this continuous X variable. So we'll see if I am correct. All right, it made that update. Looks the same to me. What did it say it did? Data is still sorted by total watch time in descending order. I mean, I don't think I see that. I'm even going to refresh this. There's something that I didn't see. Okay, didn't really rerun that. Oh, well, yeah, this is just all the data. I didn't really care for this too much. This isn't really what I liked. We're not hitting it with this graph. We're not hitting it with this graph. We're not. Total watch time for each user. It does, but that's not the way I wanted it ordered. I want to update the customer page so that it requires you to choose a customer ID and it gives relevant graphs for that customer based on the other filters. So one thing I'm thinking about with this customer page is, hey, let's actually make it where you pick a customer. Maybe you pick an ID or you pick a graph. Sorry, not a graph, but where you pick another filter. It's either going to be a user ID you'll select or you can pick a group. But I think we should replace the current, well, this is where the filtering could get a little weird sequentially. Let's see what it does if I just do this. Okay, it updated again. We'll take one more shot at it and see what it looks like. I'm going to refresh this page. Okay. What did it do? Put a customer ID up here. select that, viewing history, genre preferences. Okay, genre preferences by time watch, average completion rate by genre. Okay. One thing I will note, so it does have, it's got the viewing history, I see, so I can only pick one at a time. Actually, I do have to see if the data, it could be a data thing as well, where the data might not have multiple user IDs. The user IDs might all be distinct here, which I don't want, but it could be the case. So I think what's happening here is the synthetic data I made for customers is it's distinct. At this point, I would get back to the data. I'd probably rebuild that data JSON object again, which by the way, you can just do. The cool thing is you've made this application, and as long as you're meeting the schema requirements and the column names are the same, the attribute names are the same, you can just put any data into here and it's gonna work. But I would go back to that data and use it again. But let's think about what we actually just pulled off. Overview page, shows page, and a customer specific page. We've already got 3 pages into an analytics UI. I have not coded anything. I've just been thinking about what I need. I've just been thinking about my perspective. I didn't even bring up the fact that it put top line metrics right here on the customers page. Didn't even put that. Didn't even realize that. Customer summary. That's exactly what I was thinking about next. After the graphs, I was like, oh, I should put like summary metrics up top. This is also where we should put like pages, like to have these summary metrics up top. It's thinking about that. And that's the cool thing is like, you offer it to the agent to be like, well, what would you do? What do you think about? And you might find the part that works. Oh, I like that. Now you could go back to the shows page and say, hey, can you put a summary here, the metrics at the top, just like on the customer page. This is the vibe coding perspective. This is what it does. So I think that this hopefully gave you a really, really good way to think about this. What I think we'll probably do in the next part, because I want it to be 3 parts, is at this point, I think I'm going to show some more about how we might deliver this, ways to deliver this. I will probably make some updates to the data. I might get the customer page a little more in an area that I like, but I think we're going to talk about deployment. So for Streamlit specifically, and we'll probably work with GCP because that's what I know. Before we get there, I just want to say thank you very much for watching this. This was a long one. We went through the weeds here on this one. I'm going to try to do that a little bit more. Not everything's going to be super long. This one is probably super long. Going to edit the heck out of this, I'm sure. But thanks for hanging around. Thanks for subscribing to this channel. I've got descriptions and links to the other places you can find me in the description below. Y'all have a great day.